Hey guys, it's Courtney. Today we're going to be making a card using the My Monthly Hero card kit from like 2 months ago, I think. And I wanted to create a snow globe. I've seen a few people creating these over the last couple of weeks and I wanted to try it, but I don't have a snow globe die or a stamp. So I'm going to create my own here. I started off by using my pencil and a circle die just to trace that, and now I'm using my T-square ruler to create the base of the snow globe, keeping this nice and simple. And this will give me a guide as to where I need to stamp, and also in case I make a mistake, it's obviously you can just erase a pencil. So I'm going to stamp out 2 of the images from the stamp set with blackout ink by Ink on 3. And I'm working on a piece of Nina Solar White 80-pound cardstock. Once my images were stamped down and I was happy with the placement, I'm just going to realign my die here, and I'm making sure that those, you know, when dies, when you first get them, they're like stuck together and you have to use the wire snips. I'm making sure that those pieces are on the bottom because you're going to get like a little bump if you don't, if that makes any sense to you guys whatsoever. So I'm just going to retrace that and retrace my lines that I had created for the base of the snow globe. And this is the EK Success journaling pen. You can use any Copics safe pen here. I also drew a little squiggly line right behind my little girl and boy here, and this will be like the ice that they're standing on. And then I went ahead and erased all of my pencil lines before I moved on to my Copic coloring. So we're going to start off with the snow globe itself. And I'm going directly over my images here because any reflection or glare on the glass would be right on the images themselves. So I'm starting off with my lightest color here, and I'm pretty much just going around the edges, but leaving a very small highlight around either side of the snow globe, leaving that white for now. Then I'll go in with the darkest color, the BG15, and I'm only using 2 colors here. And I'm going to kind of go over those same areas, but I'm not going all the way to the top of the snow globe. This is just going to be on the sides. And I'm going to kind of map out where my reflection will be, but I'm not leaving that white. I just have not mastered that. So what we'll do is we'll use a white gel pen once all the coloring is done to bring those highlights back in. Next, I'll go back in with that lightest color and kind of tone down that BG15 a little bit. And also I'm going to just pretty much just add some lines from the top down. So I'm going to start off right in the middle of the snow globe and kind of work my way down, but going in the shape of the snow globe. So the lines in the center will be more straight. The ones on the side will be curved along with the snow globe itself, again going directly over the images themselves. So once that was done, we'll move on to the coloring of the images. And I know that looks a little crazy right now, but it will all make sense once everything is done. So being I have my paper saturated already, and these are teeny tiny areas, I'm going to go right in with the darkest color for their skin tones, which is the E04. And I'm just creating a shadow where their hair is, and on her one little leg that's bent up, that would also create a shadow. Blending that out with the mid-tone and then going in with the lightest color. For the most part, I'm only going to be using 3 color blends here. For her hair, going right in with the darkest color again, and I'm just using the lines within the image itself to kind of guide me as to where my shadows will be. It looks like she's got kind of wavy hair. So I'm going to create a shadow underneath her little hat and then just use those lines within the image, blending that out with the mid-tone, then the lightest color. For his hair, there's really not much showing here, so I'm only going to do 2 colors. You don't even need to do 2. You could pretty much get away with just 1. So for the shadows on her, it's going to be off to the left-hand side. For the shadows on him, it will be off to the right-hand side, just because they're facing each other and I wanted to pretty much have a center light source. So again, just using a 3 color blend here. For her little jacket, I'm leaving another little white highlight. I don't even know if you guys can see it, but off to the left-hand side of her coat there, I'm leaving a little bit of a white area because I don't want two darkest areas right next to one another. And where the coat is kind of folded, that would pretty much stay dark. There's not going to be too much of a highlight in those areas. So I needed to kind of differentiate between those two areas. For her hat, the shading would be underneath the little top of the hat as well as off to the left-hand side, but using the same color combination as I did for her jacket. Now, I skipped yesterday. I know I've been posting a Christmas card video every day. I know that I had mentioned before that I had injured myself and I hurt my back pretty bad, and it kills me to sit and craft. As much as I want to, it just kills me. So as I'm making this card, I have kind of rigged a contraption where I have a heating pad on my back, but I took a sweatshirt and I have the sleeves tied around my waist so that the heating pad won't budge, and that seems to be helping. So at least enough where I can sit and craft a little bit. So being I skipped yesterday, I'm going to be posting 2 videos today. So this is obviously the first, and then probably in a couple of hours I will post another one. So moving on to him now, I'm going to, his scarf and his pants will be the same colors using some B90 markers. Again, leaving just that little bit of a highlight on that one leg so that the shadow on the leg that's behind him doesn't blend in with the front leg. That's kind of crazy sounding, but you guys know what I mean. Just to kind of differentiate. For his jacket, I wanted to make his jacket brown. So I'm going to bring in some E50 markers, and the shading for that will be on that one arm that's kind of sticking out a little bit, would be underneath that, underneath his little lapel there, on the side of his one arm, also creating a little shadow underneath his pocket. For his hat, I'm just doing one little long flick where the hat is kind of folded over just to kind of give that some movement. Blending that out with the E57, and then finally I will go in with the E55 and blend the rest of that out. I'm also coloring the little cuffs of their sleeves the same color, but I'm creating a little bit of a shadow where these would kind of be folded over on the rest of the jacket just by putting one straight little line there, just to kind of create just a little bit of a shadow. For their skates and mittens, I'm going to be using some C markers for both, but I'm going to color his just a little bit darker. So I'm going to start off with the C7 and add my shading to his skates and his mittens, and then move on to the C5, blend that out, and the C5 will also be the darkest color for her skates and her mittens. Blending his skates out with the C3, and that will be the lightest color for his, and that will be the mid-tone for hers. Then I'll finally go in with the C1, and that will be the highlight color for her mittens and her skates as well. So for the bottom parts of their hats, I'm just going to leave it as is. I'm not going to do any shading. These would typically be white, but I'm just going to leave it as is. For the ice that they're standing on, I wanted to create some texture here. So I'm going to start off with my B95, and I'm just very lightly touching the tip of the marker to the paper, and closest to the back, I guess, would be the darkest. Going to do the same thing with the B93, only extend those lines down a little bit further, and then finally the B91, and I hated the way it was looking. So I ended up taking my C1 and covering up the entire thing. This will kind of give the illusion that it is ice, but it will also kind of tone down some of those streaky lines that we had put down. Also make sure that you are getting in between their little skates. So once the coloring was done for the inside of the snow globe, we'll move on to the base of the snow globe. And I wanted this to appear to be a wooden base, or wood grain anyway. So I'm starting off with my lightest color. This is the E30, and I'm just going to cover up the entire area to get my paper saturated to make my blending a little bit easier. Then I'm going to go in with my darkest mid-tone, which is the E33, and I'm just going to put my little squiggly lines. I know you've seen this done not only by me, but a ton of other people too, so I won't go into too much detail. But next I'll go in with the darkest color, the E59, and I'm going to be adding some shading on either side of the base. I guess this would be more round. And I'm going to go over my squiggly lines just on either side, because this would be the darkest area and we're going to be blending this out with our darkest mid-tone. I didn't want those lines to completely disappear. So I'll move back onto that E33 and blend that E37 out a little bit. I think I said that was an E59, but it wasn't. It was the E37. And then the E31, and then finally back to the E33, or E30 rather. I wanted this to be kind of faint. I wanted to have the texture of wood grain, but I didn't want it to be too much because this is where I'm going to be stamping my sentiment. So next, going in with the white gel pen, and this is where I'm going to start adding my highlights. So whenever you're coloring a larger area with a gel pen, I just kind of outline it and then fill it in, making sure that you want to use a higher quality gel pen here because you can't go over it more than once. You'll kind of just pick up the color that you already put down. So you want to make sure that you have a lot of ink in your gel pen and that it's flowing the way it should. So after filling in those highlights, I added a few little rectangles here, curved with the shape of the snow globe itself. And this will just appear to be highlights on either side. Also, I added little dots everywhere, and this will be the snow that's within the snow globe. And I went directly over my images as well, because if you shake up a snow globe, the snow is going to go pretty much everywhere. So you want to go directly over your images. This also gives you an opportunity where if you had any mistakes in your coloring, or if you happen to go out of the lines or it bled a little bit, just put a little dot there of snow and nobody will know the difference. I didn't want to use my colorless blender on these areas because I had already colored the background. So I just put a little dot in the few little areas that I did have a little bit of bleeding or I was just a little bit too sloppy. So once all of that was done, I will go ahead and stamp my sentiment right there in the center of my little snow globe base there with VersaFine Onyx Black ink. And then I wanted to, this was kind of just floating there. So I took my W5, W3, and W1 just to add a little bit of a ground for this. Going first with the W5 and pretty much just drawing a line underneath my image there. Then I'll blend that out a little bit further with the W3, then doing the same thing with the W1, and then just quickly going over with my colorless blender just on the bottom part so that I didn't have that harsh line. But that is it for today, guys. Thanks a lot for stopping by. Have a great day. Bye.